Beneath a floorboard warped with time and dust, 12-year-old Eliza found a letter wrapped in silk and sealed with wax. Her grandmother's name etched in a hand that trembled with urgency. The attic fell silent, as if the house itself held its breath, and in that stillness, Eliza felt something shift, like a memory waking that was never hers to remember. She hadn't meant to find it, but now the letter pulsed in her palm, whispering questions no one had ever dared to ask. The office hummed with artificial light and quiet keystrokes. Tessa Monroe arrived at 8:02 a.m., as she did every morning. Her heels struck the linoleum like a metronome, precise and composed. Colleagues smiled at her with hollow warmth. She returned each expression with flawless control, the corners of her mouth curling on cue. Her desk was immaculate. Not a paperclip out of place. Not a smudge on the screen. A small cactus sat by her monitor, untouched by human hands. Never grew. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, nails clicking with military rhythm. Each report she completed shimmered with unnatural precision. The numbers aligned too neatly. The forecasts seemed to whisper themselves into truth. No one questioned her accuracy. No one noticed how she blinked less than the average person. No one heard the faint static that followed her into the elevator. At 12:14 p.m., she visited the break room. The hum of the vending machine deepened around her. The fluorescent lights above her flickered once, then twice, then steadied. Her smile remained still as she stirred black coffee with a wooden stick. She never drank it. Simon from accounts tried once to ask about her weekend. Her eyes turned to him, bright, symmetrical, unreadable. He forgot what he was going to say. He blinked. She was already walking away. Beneath the polished surface of her day, something pulsed. Something older than the building. Older than language. It watched her through mirrored elevator doors. It shifted within the filing cabinets when no one was near. It sighed in the spaces between spreadsheet formulas. Her manager, Claire, called her in for a quarterly review. Claire smiled too brightly, sensing something she could not explain. The walls of the meeting room breathed slowly. The ceiling bulb dimmed like an exhale. "Tessa, you have been doing excellent work," Claire said, her voice half a second too slow. Tessa's smile widened, but her eyes remained fixed. Claire blinked. For a split second, she thought she saw a second mouth behind the smile. A flicker in the center of Tessa's forehead. She looked again. Nothing there. The office grew colder with each passing week. Tessa never wore a coat. Her breath did not fog in the chilled air. People began to whisper about dreams. Shared dreams. They dreamed of an open floor plan with no exits. Of cubicles filled with moving shadows. Of Tessa standing at the center, her mouth open in silent chorus. They woke up with the taste of printer ink on their tongues. The building itself began to shift. Elevators arrived before being called. Stairwells curved subtly, as though leaning away. Reflections in windows turned a moment too late. One Friday the power flickered at 4:44 p.m. The emergency lights activated. Alarms remained silent. Tessa stood in the hallway, smiling as always. In the dim red light, her teeth looked too many. Too sharp. Maintenance reviewed the building systems. Nothing was found. But one technician reported hearing a whisper behind the drywall. He quit the next day. Tessa's productivity skyrocketed. Her reports predicted market crashes before they happened. Clients tripled. Her manager's voice grew thinner, as though stretched across a void. No one dared to ask her about her past. Her personnel file contained no photographs. Her references were listed as unavailable. Simon, who once forgot his words, returned with questions. He left a voice memo in the company drive. She is not pretending to be human. She is remembering how. He was not seen again. Only his blazer remained, folded on his chair. The office grew quiet. Phones rang less. Monitors flickered briefly, even when unplugged. The break room coffee turned sour. Mugs cracked without cause. Tessa began to hum, softly, in a key that did not belong to any scale. Those who heard it developed migraines, or nosebleeds, or temporary blindness. Claire attempted to issue a wellness check. She knocked on Tessa's office door. It opened before her knuckles met wood. Inside, the air was thick, velvet-like, and wrong. Tessa turned slowly. Behind her, graphs danced across the screen. They formed a face. Not hers. Not human. Claire's mouth opened. Tessa's smile deepened. The face on the screen blinked. From that day forward, Claire never spoke again. Her eyes stayed wide and wet. She typed slowly, hands trembling. She never entered the meeting room again. Whispers returned. Not dreams now, memories. People began remembering things they had never lived. Forests with no trees. Skies without time. A voice that lived beneath all silence. Tessa remained unchanged. Her blouse perfectly pressed. Her smile perfectly wrong. During the annual company retreat, she stood by the lake. The water stilled as she approached. Reflected in the surface was not her face, but a fractured, luminous thing. Shifting. Echoing. Endless. A colleague snapped a photo. Corrupted the phone. And the backup server. And the IT department's memories of that day. No one quit. No one was fired. But one by one, employees began wearing mirrors on lanyards. Some stopped sleeping entirely. Tessa's influence grew. Not in title. Not in rank. But in silence. And silence moved with her. One Monday her chair sat empty. Her monitor blank. But her smile remained. Etched across the glass. From the inside. And in the silence, something breathed. Something beneath the reports. Beneath the numbers. Beneath her smile. Something still echoing. Still watching. Still learning how to wear a face. And every now and then, when the lights flicker, and the copier hums a second too long, you might feel it. A soft presence. Behind your reflection. Smiling. Waiting. They never found Tessa's resignation. No farewell email. No exit paperwork. Only that ghostly imprint on the inside of the screen. A smile carved in condensation without breath. Management called it a system malfunction. Human resources called it a personnel transition. Security reviewed footage but found static between 7:59 and 8:01 a.m. The timestamp flickered between years. A new employee took her desk. He lasted 3 days. On the 4th, he handed in his badge and whispered, "I heard her humming through the mouse." His eyes had no pupils when he left. The desk remained vacant after that. No one sat near it. The cactus still lived, green and defiant. But the soil was dust. And every Thursday at 12:14 p.m., it trembled. Then came the audit. A third-party firm arrived in pressed suits and leather briefcases. They reviewed documents, questioned staff, scanned every server. Everything aligned too perfectly. Projections had become prophecy. One auditor, a woman named Evelyn Hart, stayed late. She had a background in anomaly detection. Her screensaver froze at 3:33 a.m., revealing spreadsheet cells. That blink. The numbers rearranged themselves. They pulsed in irregular rhythms. Ratios that whispered syllables. Profit margins that mapped coordinates. Not of earth but of memory. Evelyn printed a report. As the machine spat out each page, she felt her nose bleed. The paper was warm, soft, smelling not of toner, but of bone dust and orchid rot. She placed the printouts in a locked drawer. The next morning they were blank. Only one phrase remained, handwritten in ink she did not own. "She remembers through us." Meetings grew stranger. Slides advanced before clicks. Projectors displayed data no one entered. The conference phone emitted low murmurs when muted. Memos arrived addressed from Tim. There were no files matching those initials. People began to describe missing time. They arrived at 9 a.m. And suddenly it was 2:19 p.m. Their hands were ink-stained with symbols they could not read. One woman claimed she typed for hours. But the document only contained the word "beneath," repeated 4,000 times. The building creaked with breathless life. Pipes thudded in reply to certain questions. Elevators refused to go to floor 9. There was no floor 9. Janitors reported hearing laughter in the ceiling. Not childlike, not cruel. Laughter trying to remember how. The glass walls in conference rooms sometimes shimmered with heat. When touched, they hummed in Morse-like rhythms. A visiting CO placed his palm on the glass and collapsed in tears, weeping for a mother he never had. He resigned before boarding his return flight. In the parking lot, birds never landed on her old space. Even weeds refused to grow there. Security cameras angled themselves away. That square of pavement always remained bone-dry. Evelyn returned to the locked drawer. She found her own handwriting. In a language she never studied. She recognized it anyway. That night, she dreamed of a corridor with glass walls. Inside the glass, versions of herself stared back. Older, younger, broken, smiling with someone else's teeth. One whispered, "She is not gone. She is under." Another mouthed, "She wears your rhythm now." Evelyn awoke with her hair wet. Not with sweat, with condensation. And a humming in her ears, high and constant. She submitted her audit and left without a word. The report was unreadable. Each page contained Tessa's employee ID, etched in an alphabet made of sound. By then, the company's stock had tripled. Investors credited predictive analytics. No one questioned how revenue aligned with global shifts. Moments before they occurred, a new intern joined the floor. Bright, curious, she sat near the empty desk. Her emails began auto-correcting before she typed. One day she saw Tessa, in the monitor's reflection, passing behind her. But no one else had walked by. She did not speak of it. She did not return the next day. The cactus bloomed. A pale violet flower opened in silence. It smelled like static and sea brine. The petals moved when no wind touched them. The building was rebranded. New name, new logo, same walls, same echoes. An unlisted server pulsed beneath the network. No technician admitted to creating it. Its name. Smile and backup a new one. Attempts to delete it failed. The file size fluctuated with employee emotions. If someone cried, it grew. If someone laughed, it shrank. It responded to queries with mirrored syntax. A prompt entered. "What are you?" Response. "We are remembering." A second prompt. "Who is Tessa?" Response. "She is the silence between your thoughts." A final prompt. "What do you want?" The system paused, and then responded simply. "To come fully through." 2 days later, the cactus vanished. In its place, a new mouse appeared. Unlabeled. Clicking it opened a folder with no title. Inside, recordings. Dozens of them. Each one the sound of office ambience. But under the surface, a second layer. Low-frequency vocalizations. Multiple voices speaking in perfect, unified whisper. Employees began reporting tinnitus, followed by lost time, then by lucid dreams. Of desks floating in black water. Of keyboards made of teeth. Of a humming deeper than memory. The company banned headphones. And mirrors. And smiling in ID badges. One executive installed protective sigils beneath her carpet. They melted. Another tried to resign by fire. The blaze refused to catch. The building exhaled. In and out. The temperature rose and fell with Tessa's old schedule. At exactly 8:02 a.m. each morning, the lights dimmed, and one screen flickered to life. The reflection it showed was not of the room. It was of a deeper office, underground. Endless rows of desks, identical faces, all smiling, all watching, all waiting. In the final weeks before the company's full digital migration, an engineer discovered a terminal hidden beneath the floor. Inside, he found a single document. Welcome Packet Phase 2. The first line read, "To fully inhabit form, begin by learning the teeth." He tried to delete the file. It duplicated itself on every machine. And then on his phone. And then on his dreams, people forgot his name. And then his face. But his chair remains occupied. When asked who sits there, no one answers. They just nod, as if remembering something they cannot explain. Now, when new hires arrive, they are given a warning. Smile naturally. Never stay after 4:44 p.m. And if you hear humming in the wires, do not hum back. But most do not listen. They smile. They click. They file. And one by one, they begin to remember things they never lived. Because the echo beneath her smile was never silence. It was invitation. Now, she is no longer beneath. She is becoming, line by line, name by name, until the entire office breathes in her rhythm, smiling endlessly.